Hey there folks, Luke here with the Outdoor Gear Review. I hope you're all doing well. Today for this episode, this is after the camp, and we are discussing Drenched, the military surplus overnight adventure 2. Go ahead and get comfortable, let's get started. Now, I don't know about where you guys are, but where I'm at right now in North Carolina, it is a perfect day for a nice cup of hot coffee. It is cold outside, it's a little snowy, perfect to sit back, relax, watch a video, enjoy some Joe. Now, with this trip that we took, the Drenched Military Surplus Overnight Adventure 2, talk about fun. We got to use some really cool gear, and you guys got to vote on all that gear. It was a great trip, all in all, even though the weather did not cooperate with us. It definitely wasn't the forecast that we were given. Now, before we took off, the forecast was essentially a winter storm warning for heavy, wet snow. And what we ended up really was with just nothing but rain. It did transition to snow for about an hour, and then it went back to rain again. The reason I called this adventure Drenched was because it poured the rain all night long.
It is a little bit after 5 o'clock in the morning, and it has been pouring the rain all night long. It has not stopped. It has not turned over to snow like I had hoped, like they had forecasted. Maybe it will, I don't know, but it's just been pouring all night long.
It did turn to snow, but then it went right back to rain, and it just kept on going. Now, there's so many different areas to this trip that we need to touch upon. Why don't we go ahead, move our focus over to the Alice pack. You guys really wanted to see that pack. That's why we used it. It got the most votes. So, let me just go ahead and say thank you all very much for all of those votes. Do appreciate it. You guys selected the gear that we used. Now, when it comes to purchasing an Alice pack, there's two sizes. You have the medium and you have the large. And there also are reproductions, which I don't recommend. Usually the quality is just not as good as the real thing. So, if you're going to go out and get one, grab a real one. With the medium size, you do not have to use the frame. With the large size, you definitely do. But if you're going to carry a heavier load, get the frame. Don't waste your time. Don't kill your back. Now, when it comes to price, these are fairly inexpensive. You can find them for about $50, all the way up to $100, depending on condition. The Alice pack was made with one thing in mind. Just rugged performance. It performs well. Is it the most comfortable? No. Absolutely not. For me, I find with the frame, it pulls a little bit too far from my back, so it kind of becomes uncomfortable after a long period of time. Is it the most uncomfortable pack I've ever tested? Absolutely not. Very good value for what you're getting. Heavy though. If you're bushcrafting and you're not really planning on going out very far, I think it's really fantastic. If you're a backpacker, I think you could do a whole lot better even for the money. You could definitely find something that's more comfortable that weighs a heck of a lot less. So it really depends on the purpose of the reason why you're getting this bag. For a bug out bag, possibly it could be good. It really just depends on, again, what are you going to do with it? If you're bugging out, how far do you plan on going? It's a big pack. It weighs a lot. It can carry a lot, but not very comfortably. So you really have to decide what's the purpose, what are your intentions with it, how far are you going, and stuff like that. Now, for me, I'm a collector of outdoor gear. I absolutely love military surplus. And that's the reason why I have the Alice pack, and I'm glad I have it. Now, in the future, we will be doing some modifications to that pack. It's a good pack. It could be a better pack than that. Now we have to discuss the Tarp. That was the United States Marine Corps Field Tarp. Great tarp. You can find these. The prices aren't too terribly bad. Let me go ahead and just pull that up, and let's see how much we can find them for on eBay. eBay is a fantastic place to begin your search for military surplus. You can get a good idea of what is out there and how much it costs. So, you really have to look around when it comes to items like this, because you can find some that are really good deals, about $20. You can find some good ones that are in excellent condition for about $30 to $40. Or some people are out there just to rip you off. Here's one for $390. I don't get it. If you're going to get one, make sure to pay attention to the condition. Do you want one that has holes in it? Do you want one that needs repairs? Do you want one that has been repaired? Look around, find the one that you want. Personally, I would get one that's in very good condition. That way you don't have to worry about holes, leaks, so on and so forth. When it came to our setup, we set that up in a shelf formation, and I showed you that in the video there. Now, of course, it wasn't absolutely perfect. Typically, you have it straight and then 90 degrees down. But because of the way of the land, the rocks, it didn't work that way. But we stayed perfectly dry all night long. Now, I have to say that with that tarp, because of the materials that it's made with, it absorbed a lot of water. In the middle of the night, after it had been raining for hours, it began to sag pretty darn good. So I ended up using my tripod for my camera to brace it right in the middle. And still, that thing sagged down pretty dang good. When it came to the tension that I had on that tarp, I had it pretty much pulled to the max. So it really goes to show you how the materials of an item can really influence your adventure, your trip, and when the weather changes, just how much that weather can influence the gear. So yeah, it was pretty tight, pretty taut all the way across the shelf portion when we set it up. But overnight, as it absorbed water, man, it sunk down big time. But then again, in the end, we stayed nice and dry. That's the main point to make. Our sleeping bag came from the Modular sleep system. That was the intermediate bag. The black bag did fantastic. We stayed nice and warm all night long. Very, very good bag. Very inexpensive. Now, if you guys are interested in me doing a preview, a video on the Modular sleep system, let me know. If you guys want one, I'll do one. I know there's a lot of videos out there already, but I'm happy to make another one. We'll add it to the collective, I guess. So if you want one, let me know. Now with the sleeping pad, that was the blue one that we found on the Appalachian Trail. I love when you can go out on a trip and come back with more gear than you actually went out with. That's pretty cool. The Army in the United States is issued something very, very similar. Of course, theirs is OD green. This one was blue. So, but really, it was roughly the same thing. And truthfully, it wasn't incredibly uncomfortable. I actually slept pretty darn good that night. So, yeah, there you go. Now, some of the viewers actually remembered when I found that sleeping pad. You guys have very good memories. Now, when it comes to the knife, we were using the Gerber LM F2 that I had modified. I had stripped the coating off that thing. Very good knife, runs about 63 bucks, has a pretty good sheath, has an integrated blade sharpener, which is pretty good. Not the best in the world, but, you know, in a pinch, it'll do you just fine. You can always do better by hand, but, yeah, I mean, that's how it goes. I like that knife. It is a survival knife. It really is not meant for bushcraft or anything related to bushcraft. I did some whittling on some wood in that video, and it did not do a very good job. But then again, that is not what that blade is made for. For backpacking, bushcraft, and so on, I would recommend that you go with a different knife. If you're a survivalist, you are big into the tactical factor, you're a soldier, it could probably suit you pretty well. I did read accounts from pilots who had used this knife in Iraq. Basically, their helicopters would get shot down, and they would use the end to bust out the windows to escape. That's pretty interesting. The Cook Set was the Yugoslavian Cook Set. We have a preview video on this. If you're interested, just do a search for it. You'll find it. Pretty awesome Cook Set. Very inexpensive. We ended up giving one of those away. Enjoy, my friend. It includes basically a pot, a canteen, a bowl, a small cup, and of course the silverware, spoon, fork, knife. Personally, I think it's a great cook set. You can usually find these for about 20 bucks or less, and for the value, top notch, definitely. Now, as you saw in the adventure, I used 3 canteens. I had 2 canteens full of water, and I used the Yugoslavian mess kit canteen to actually retrieve more water from the creek, and that way I could boil it and put it back in my canteens. And I wasn't going to drink from the Yugoslavian canteen after I had done that. So, yeah, anytime that you're out and about, you're backpacking, you're bushcrafting, you're camping, whatever, you just need to think about the things that you're going to do. You got to think about your priorities. And right at the top are food, water, shelter, and warmth. Those are the 4 biggies right there. The poncho that I used for this adventure was the German snow poncho. Did a great job keeping me nice and dry. Even when the snow turned over to rain, I stayed nice and dry. Basically, when I broke down camp, I took the poncho off, I threw my backpack on, put the poncho over the top of it, and my gear stayed nice and dry too. If memory serves me correctly, I gave one of those away in a contest. So, yeah. Hope you're enjoying it, my friend. Now, when it came to our meal that night, we had the Drytech freeze-dried caribou casserole thing. It was fantastic. It was so very good. Definitely one of the best backpacking meals I've ever had. Now, I did contact Drytech to find out if there was any way that they would offer these in the United States. And sadly, my friends, they are not going to do so anytime soon. I was not able to find any sources to even import these. You may be able to find a site that would translate it to English and possibly order it from there. I don't know. I looked around, I had no luck. So sadly, I don't know if we'll be seeing those again. Luckily, Thor did send me a whole case, man. And thank you so much, my friend. I really do appreciate it. So I definitely have some good eating. And if you ever get the opportunity to pick up some Drytech freeze-dried meals, please do, because you will not regret it. They are awesome. Yeah, it did say in the ingredients list that it was reindeer meat, which is caribou, but I never seen it posted as reindeer. I thought that was pretty funny. I've also heard through the grapevine that I'm not getting any Christmas presents because I ate a reindeer this year, so. Now, when it came to the clothing that I was wearing, I was pretty much just wearing the same stuff that I always do. And that included my Fjallraven pants, best pants out there. I've never found a pair or a brand of pants that beat them. If you have something in mind that you think may beat Fjallraven, let me know. But yes, I had my Fjallraven trousers on. Awesome. I had an Old Navy active shirt. Did a good job of keeping me nice and dry, wick away moisture and all that. Wool socks, mammoth fleece. I also had some tights that I put on that night to help me just stay a little bit warmer. I definitely brought an extra pair of wool socks. That way, once I got into my bivvy, I can put those socks on and my feet are nice and dry. Now, speaking of the bivvy, we used the United States Marine Corps improved 3-season bivvy, and it did a fantastic job. One thing that I find very, very interesting about the improved bivvy and how the Marines have reacted to it. Some people are really, really hung up on the older version, the Gore-Tex bivvy. And some people really like the new one. And I've seen a lot of discussion between soldiers and Marines talking about which one's better. Personally, I look at them as just two separate, completely different items. I think the Gore-Tex version is a little bit more centered for the 4th season. You can use it in rain, but you could also use it in the snow, and I would use it in a time where bugs are not an issue because it does not have any sort of mesh to keep the bugs away. The improved 3-season bivvy does, and that's the reason why I would use that in typically the warmer months. Zip it up, you have a nice air hole with mesh to protect you from the bugs. There you go. But it did very, very good. No moisture buildup inside of it at all, even though I did keep the face hole basically unzipped so I could breathe through that mesh. My footbox at the end of the bivvy was sticking out in the rain, got rained on, and did not leak at all. I stayed very, very dry. I've used this in previous adventures, and I believe it was the Coyote Stealth Camp. It really is fantastic. The price on these have really come down. If you're a very large individual, you may want to try getting inside one before you buy it, because I'm only 5'4", I'm pretty big up top, but it's still a pretty tight fit for myself. So if you're a bigger individual, you may want to hop inside of it and see if it works for you. Now, one thing that many of the viewers have noticed is that the video quality has had an upgrade. And that's because I have upgraded to a new camera. I went in pretty good debt for this thing, but it really does do a good job. Shoots at 60 frames a second, and the video quality is fantastic, as you all have mentioned. So I'll just go ahead and turn this around so you can see this. So there you go. That is the new camcorder, and it is a very, very good one. The quality is great. It's also very expensive, but for you all, it is worth the money, and that's why I did it. As you can see here, I have the dead cat on top of the camera, and basically that's to minimize wind noise. So basically that's what that's for. That allows me to shoot in windier conditions, and because it's the mountains here, it is always windy, even in the summer. So in the future, I will shoot a quick response video on this camera so you guys can learn the model, the make, features, and so on. Now, when it comes to our next overnight adventure, it's coming up very, very soon. I cannot tell you anything about it. It is a surprise, but look forward to it very, very soon. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a lot of fun. Oh yeah, I can't wait. I should mention that in the future I will also address how to get a fire going when you have soaking wet materials. We started that in that overnight adventure, and we actually had a fire going by the time I decided just to call it quits. Those cameras were getting so sopping wet that I had to stop shooting. I almost tore up one of my other ones. Not this one right here, because I wasn't going to take a chance and get it out in that wet snow. But the other one, I did take a chance. And yeah, that thing was dripping by the time I got it back in under the tarp. So yes, we will go back and do an instructional video on how to get a fire going with wet materials. You definitely can. It takes a little bit of work, a little bit of know-how. And you guys saw a good bit of the process to get to that point where you actually have the fire going. I've had a few viewers say that they actually ran out and did the same thing right after watching my video, and they were able to do it. So awesome. That's what it's all about, my friends. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. World War II, such an interesting period of time, and really there's so many different facets to the war, so many different angles, so many different countries, there's just so much information to process. It's almost impossible to know every single detail. I know many of you really enjoyed hearing the details and the information that I shared, but really there was so much more that I could have, and that I actually cut out because I didn't want to make that video super duper long and just nothing but me talking in the dark. But one thing that I find very, very interesting is, of course, Hitler was bombing Britain to smithereens. And, of course, Britain would not give up. But for Britain to survive, they needed the United States. They needed our manufacturing capabilities. And for us to provide them with all these goods, to keep them going, Britain actually provided the United States with every single technological advancement and patent that they had come up with at that time. There was new radar technologies, work for the atomic bomb, and so on, and they provided it all to the United States. That package of information is considered to be the most valuable package to ever come to the shores of the United States. That's pretty wild. I thought about throwing in some speeches that were made during this time, maybe from the President of the United States, from Churchill and so on, for maybe even Hitler himself. But of course I didn't want to make this too much about history. But on YouTube there are plenty of documentaries that are really, really interesting to watch, especially about World War II. So my friends, for our look at Drenched, the Military Surplus Overnight Adventure 2, that's pretty much it. I want to thank you all so very much for watching, for all your comments and kind words. I definitely appreciate it. I want to wish you all a happy holidays. My friends, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will see you guys around. Strength and honor. Be well, be good. Take care.